Hi everybody, welcome to another ECS Tuning Easy DIY. Today we are going to be installing this street shield and this street shield tunnel brace on that MK7 GTI. So we have our ECS Tuning street shield and tunnel brace here. Both are going to add 3/16 of an inch of solid aluminum between the ground and your oil pan. Install is really pretty easy. We really only need a handful of basic tools. We have a 3/8 inch ratchet and torque wrench, a 16, 13, and 10 millimeter socket, flathead screwdriver, pick, T25 Torx, and 5mm Allen key. And of course, magnetic tray to hold it all while we take it apart. All right, let's get started on this really easy DIY. All right, so we are up under the car here on our rack. First note of caution, if you're doing this on the ground with jack and jack stands, be sure you're on level ground and you're using jack stands safely and appropriately. To get started, we're going to add the front mounting bracket behind the exhaust hanger here. We're going to take these two 13mm bolts out, slide this up and in, and then tighten them back down. And these riv nuts will give us the 3 forward mounting locations for the tunnel shield. So I cracked all the bolts loose with hand tools. We'll finish it off with an air ratchet. If you have a battery impact, everything works the same. So now we're just going to fit our forward mounting bracket behind the exhaust hanger. And then, not using power tools, we're going to finger start all the bolts in the same holes. And the reason you don't want to use a power tool for this is because you don't want to strip these bolts as they are in the subframe here. And if you strip out your subframe, you're going to be in a world of hurt. Now that I got them finger tight, we'll start them in with the ratchet. All right, now that everything is hand tight, we'll finish it off with the torque wrench, and we're using 3/8 torque wrench. It is 18 foot-pounds or 25 Newton meters. Moving on to the center bracket here, the process deviates just a little bit for the Golf R versus GTI. We are on a front wheel drive GTI right now, so on a Golf R, you'll end up taking out a little chunk of aluminum right here. This is just aluminum heat shield with your tin snips, because on a Golf R, you have the carrier bearing for the rear drive shaft. So for the GTI, we don't have to cut anything out, but I just wanted to show about what you'll be taking out to do this on a Golf R. For our GTI install, we are just going to take this bracket all the way out. So again, it's 4 13mm bolts. I'll crack them loose with my ratchet, and then we'll finish it off with the air ratchet to make things go a little bit faster. All right, moving to the back, we are going to remove the last brace here. Again, 13mm nuts. All right, so you see this rear brace is just a little bit hung up on these plastic trays. They're gonna bend really gently out of the way. Don't get in there with a crowbar or something silly. Just a little bit of pressure to give you enough clearance to take it out. Now we're grabbing the tunnel shield and we're gonna offer it up to the lower side of the car. We're gonna have to fish it around these little plastic trays again. You're just gonna gently bend them out of the way. We'll put the 4 nuts on the back, and then we'll move up to that brace we took off, put some spacers on, and then we'll move up to the bracket we added and put the nuts in. This might be a good time to recruit a friend, offer him some pizza, just to help you out. You can do it, by yourself, but 4 hands are better than 2. And then like everything you're putting together, you just want to put the nuts and bolts on finger tight until we get everything sat, and then we'll tighten the torque. And the kit comes with new nuts, bolts, and hardware in general. So you won't have to reuse your old rusty OEM equipment. Okay, up front here, we're going to now add the spacers, which also come in the kit, and they're going to go right where that brace was that we took off earlier. Now on the Golf R, or all-wheel drive version, you are not going to need the spacers because that carrier bracket is the spacer. That's good. Back up. Now that we have the middle bracket hand tight, we're going to move to the front, and in the kit are 3 new 10mm bolts, and we're going to feed those up into the bracket we added as step 1. In the rear, the new replacement nuts that come with the kit go on at 15 foot-pounds or 20 Newton-meters. I'm going to hand tighten everything first, and then we'll follow it with the torque wrench. Notice I switch from side to side. We do that so we're ensuring that as everything tightens up, it's spreading out evenly. If we were to only tighten the left side first and then go to the right, something may come off center. So this is just a little bit of reassurance to make sure everything goes on evenly. Again, starting in the center with the torque wrench. All right, now for the center bracket, we're gonna again hand tighten with the ratchet, and then these go on at 18 foot-pounds or 25 Newton-meters. Okay, this is a great example of why you don't fully tighten one side at a time and you switch sides. I've only tightened this one bolt of the 4 so far, and you can see how much gap we've added here on this bolt. Now, if I were to tighten both on this side fully tight, by the time we get over here, our alignment may be off. So now I'm going to tighten the diagonal bolt opposite this one, and then we'll come back and we'll do this one, and then we'll come back and we'll do this one. And look, we've created that much more gap on this side. So this is the bolt we started on, and now it's the bolt we're finishing on. Okay, so I guess finish wasn't the right word, but you get the idea. So before I tighten these bolts in the middle down, I want to just check that our clearances in the front are good, and everything still has plenty of room to go hand tight, so we're good there. I'm going to torque these down to 18 foot-pounds or that 25 Newton-meters. Lastly, on the fronts here, I'm going to hand tighten the 10 mils, and then we'll put them on at 18 foot-pounds and 25 Newton-meters as well. And here I'll start in the middle and work my way out to the edge. That's a tunnel brace installed, pretty easy. One last call out to make is you'll notice that there's 2 extra holes drilled here on the tunnel brace, and there are factory bolts holding the heat shield on. Nothing goes on there. The holes are just added to clearance those bolts. All right, moving on to the front of the car, we're gonna now work on the street shield. A couple of things to note under here. First, let's talk about the oil pan and how low it sits in these cars. As you can see here, this big black sump here, that's the oil pan. It's pretty much the lowest thing on your car except maybe this motor mount. So adding that 3/16 inch thick aluminum plate up there is going to add a lot of good protection. And even on this car, which I believe is factory ride height, You got a couple of very significant gouges in here. This one is through the coating into the metal and honestly starting to rust. So this is the exact perfect case scenario for why you should add a street shield to your car, especially if you're lowered. For removal up here, a couple of things to note. The tabs for your existing OEM shield here are like a basket weave on the front bumper or lower portion of the front bumper. So we're going to take a handful of T25 Torx out, and then this is going to slide out, and we just want to note where that basket weave tab structure is because the replacement street shield that we're going to add has them. This is a used car, so we happen to be missing one of the Torx bolts here. But that would be where you're going to start, and then we're going to work our way around the perimeters and grab the next 7. Oh no, where am I going to put this bolt? Oh, my magnetic tray. I joke about the magnetic tray a lot, but it really is one of those simple things that makes your life easier. I really, really highly recommend you get one, especially when you're dealing with 7, 8, 10, whatever it is, bolts you're taking out of your under tray. Now you notice this is captive. Don't go yanking it out. There are 2 little tabs here. You're just going to push up with your screwdriver. One on this side and one on this side. Comes out real smooth. So the new kit comes with all new hardware, so you don't have to reuse any of that rusty stuff, and a lot of yours is probably broken, especially if you're doing this on a used car or a car in the Northeast. So we're going to go around and pull off the old fasteners and add in new ones. Here's a good opportunity to show you why we use new speed nuts in our kit. This is all oxidized and corroded, and we don't want to rely on that to hold anything up. So we provide new ones to replace it with, and they'll simply go on the same way the old ones came off, and we'll slip the plastic in right here. All right, so we're gonna add the one last speed nut that's different from the others into the street shield. You wanna be sure that you note the hole where the screw is gonna come up and in, and the threads, because the threads need to go on top of the street shield. And you might need a little bit of help from a flathead screwdriver to spread it and get it over this thick skid plate. There we go. Here's a good opportunity to showcase that little basket weave happening with the tabs on the front of the street shield. You can see how a couple of them are offset from the others. When we offer it up under the chassis here, you're gonna see exactly how those slide in. And it's important to call that out so that you don't try and tuck everything up under the existing plastics. Taking my magnetic tray full of screws, I can now put it on the subframe while I hold the street shield up by myself. We're gonna put the front T25 in first, so we gotta make sure it's lined up and centered. And all that is doing is locating the skid plate for the rest of the assembly. Do not rely on this to hold up the whole weight of the skid plate, because it won't. All it does is keep the skid plate from sliding. With the front T25 in, we're now onto the rear. I'm just going to thread one of the rear mounting bolts in enough that the skid plate can hang on it. And then I'm going to do the bolt washer combo for the other 3. So the order of operations is going to be bolt, washer, skid plate, spacer. Same with the next one, bolt, washer, skid plate, spacer. Now that the other two are in there, we can take out that first one and do our last bolt, washer, skid plate, spacer combo. And just like the tunnel brace, I'm going to start to tighten these up and not go all the way. And then once they start to tighten up, we'll go around and add all the T25s back in. And now that the T25s are back in, we're going to come back for these 5mm Allens and now put them on tight. And it's not uncommon for your threads back here to be a little rusty or corroded, so you may have to chase these bolts through before you get started. Okay, that wraps up our tunnel and street shield install. We'll have links to all the products and tools used in this video in the description, and I hope you like and subscribe for more sweet car content.